Hi there, I'm natekokernot. Welcome to my channel. In my last video, I said at one point that love is not something that we can see with our eyes, but rather that it's experienced as a knowing and a feeling. What I mean by that is that because our eyes are part of our bodies, and because our bodies themselves often represent the greatest evidence of all that we are separate from everything, our eyes are not designed for the purpose of showing us love. A Course in Miracles says that our bodies are the ego's most prized symbol for separation. If we think of ourselves as bodies, then we are identifying as something that is not eternal and invulnerable, and therefore we would have justification for feeling fear. But they don't have to represent that. In other words, they have a usefulness for the Holy Spirit as well, and that usefulness is as a communication device. Even our bodies are part of the illusionary world. If we look at it from the perspective of science, we do already know that our bodies are comprised of those things we call atoms, and that just like all the other atoms, these ones are made up of mostly empty space. I believe that it is 99.9999999999999% empty space, but you can Google it yourself to see. That's a lot of empty space. There's really nothing solid or concrete in this world of physical form. Our senses, which are faculties of the body, are designed simply to convince us that there is a solid concrete world in order to give us a false sense of security. It's nice to think that the floor is solid before you walk across it. So, of course, we leave that knowledge that most of us learned in elementary school science class away from our conscious minds. But then again, if the body is made of atoms as well as the floor, and it is according to science, then it's really mostly empty space walking across the empty space of the floor. If we let our minds go too far with this kind of thinking, we can wind up at the conclusion that we don't exist at all. And that's a fearful idea too, and I want to assure you, you do exist. So I'm proposing that we do exist, but not as bodies, simply as awareness or spirit. Or perhaps we could choose the word consciousness again as the fundamental element of who we are. The difference, then, between love and fear comes down to the question of which of these we believe that we are. Either we're spirit or we're bodies. We cannot be both. One is love and the second one is fear. And like I said in my last video, they are opposites, and so they cannot both coexist at the same time. If we're spirit, then we're eternal, and there is no justification for fear. If we're a body, then we will eventually wither away and die, unless, of course, we meet our end in some unfortunate tragedy first. It is our minds that decide who we think we are, and it is our minds that decide whether love or fear is justified. And it is a decision for every moment, like I said yesterday. Take the karate master who can break through a board with his hand. Do you believe he is accomplishing this feat by his strength alone? Or could it be perhaps that it is by the power of his belief that this board, and his hand as well, are mostly empty space, that he manages to break the board? The idea of mind over matter. The placebo effect works by the same principle, and the placebo effect is accepted by science already. If it wasn't, then it wouldn't be included in the statistical analysis of every scientific research project into therapeutic interventions, as well as every pharmaceutical and medical intervention. We all have the power to overcome matter with the power of our minds. There are many instances that I've heard of mothers finding the strength to lift a car that fell down and pin their child to the ground. Is it the strength of their muscles or the strength of their minds, and of the power of their love for their child that allows them to accomplish this feat? God created us to create with Him and like Him. A Course in Miracles describes God as a trusting God, rather than as a tyrant, as He was sometimes portrayed in the Old Testament of the Bible. God gave us the free will to decide for ourselves who we are, with complete confidence that we will decide with love rather than with fear. So it is completely up to us to choose between love and fear. It is our responsibility. I chose thought vigilance as a method for strengthening my power to choose love instead of fear, but I often let my guard down and allow some fear in instead. Nowadays, all I have to do is recognize the fear that I've let in, tell myself I do not want this, and then decide again, and then I return to my right mind. In that intervening time, before I changed my mind back to love, nothing real happened, because once again, fear is not real, so it can't have any real effect. It's just the absence of love, and it can be unlearned. Beliefs are just more solid ideas that get formed from thinking the same thought again and again and again. The idea behind thought vigilance, the practice which I offer to all of my clients in my therapy practice, is basically to starve the beliefs that we recognize are not serving us by not thinking the kinds of thoughts that keep them around. In my Thought Vigilance playlist, which you can find by clicking on the channel, I talked about the different kinds of thoughts that you might want to learn how to make disappear. The outward-directed thoughts that will never bring you a feeling of peace include grievance thoughts, judgment thoughts, blame thoughts, fearful thoughts, and scarcity thoughts. By learning that we can make them disappear, and then practicing making them disappear consistently throughout the day, we can transform our own beliefs over time from the belief in fear to the belief in love. In my case, it took about 18 months to get to a place where the different forms of fearful thoughts were no longer habits of my thinking. I'm not saying they're completely eradicated, but as soon as I recognize that one has gained purchase in my mind, I vanish it quickly and effortlessly these days. We don't have to believe that only love exists. We just have to want to believe it. So much that we're willing to do this work. And it's not the kind of work that causes us physical fatigue. There was some mental fatigue that I experienced up until a certain point, but it was manageable, and I learned in the process to forgive myself every time that I let my guard down and fell back into fear again. And I got better and better at just returning to the practice rather than entertaining limiting thoughts like, I guess I'm just not capable of this. And I would return to my right mind because the love and peace I felt there was so much nicer a feeling than was the fear, the anxiety, and the hatred. It didn't change anything about the world, but it did change my mind about the world. And slowly, gradually, I was becoming a vessel of peace that only wanted to extend that peace to the people around me. I just had to decide for love, again and again and again and again. I still have days that are harder for me, like yesterday, when I was really caught up in thoughts that others were condemning me. But eventually I realized how foolish these thoughts were, and I let them go. And the experience that came from that was a harmonious one with the very people, my children in this case, that didn't look or feel anything like condemnation. So what I'm saying is that all you have to do is want to believe that you are love and nothing else. More than anything else, to find the motivation and the willingness to do the mental work of changing your mind. And it will work if you do it consistently for a prolonged period of time. I guarantee it. You must want to see a peaceful world rather than a fearful one. And eventually, that is what you will see. When you make this commitment, you are willing with God rather than against God. And you will come to know that your safety is guaranteed. Thank you for watching. I hope that all made sense, and please feel free to comment or ask me a question if part of it did not, and I will do my best to clarify. Thank you to all of you who have liked and subscribed, and I'll see you again next time. Have a beautiful day.